Oh, yeah. Oh, the Houston Rockets are still alive. Yeah. Oh, 131-116 in Game 5. Yeah. Oh, Game 6 on Friday. Yeah. I'm Paul Gallant, and this is the Gallant Says Podcast.
A radio show host in Seattle called Paul Gallant.
Paul Gallant's wondering the same things a lot of people are.
You are definitely living in the hindsight world today, Paul.
Do you feel there's been a consistent theme with the interceptions?
I think every interception really has a different story.
I was just kind of curious what Paul gets to see.
Grow up, mother. Are you kidding me?
Paul Gallant, what the hell is wrong with you?
Hello and welcome aboard the Gallant Says Podcast. It is Wednesday night, April 30th, 2025 at 10:08 p.m. after a Rockets 131-116 win over the Golden State Warriors in Game 5 of their first-round Western Conference Series. We are live on all of the following social media platforms. Live, I say, YouTube, at Paul Gallant, on Twitch, at Gallant Says, on X and Twitter, also at Gallant Says, on Instagram at Sports Gallant, and on Facebook at Paul Gallant Sports. Normally, you can catch this thing Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Central Time. You can also occasionally catch it after major Houston sporting events. Paul, you haven't actually done a show at 4 p.m. Central Time in a really long time, bro. Seems like you're full of it. Fair point. It's also available wherever you get your podcasts after the fact. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. If you ever want to cut me off mid-thought, you know what you can do? You super chat me. You do it on YouTube. And guess what I'll do?
Paul, stop talking. Listen.
I'll play that button. And then you'll hear former Houston Texan guard Wade Smith tell me to shut up. But you do that, I'll answer your comment right there. Eventually, I will still get to your comments. I am not going to shake you down for more money. So the Rockets won tonight. I am glad that this team under Ime Udoka isn't a bunch of pushovers. They came out guns blazing and put together one of the best first half performances that you'll see any NBA team do in the playoffs, let alone against a team as experienced as the Golden State Warriors. It was 76-49 at halftime. So let's start with giving Ime Udoka credit. I was wondering how these Rockets would respond to a game one on Monday that had to be super demoralizing. To lose like that when you shot yourself in the foot so many times between the missed free throws and the turnovers and the awful starts in the first quarter and in the third quarter. How were they going to respond after having their guts pulled out and also having a chance to win that game? They're not pushovers. That's a really good sign. Ime Udoka sticks with a starting lineup that he said gave them some really good minutes, especially defensively. And credit to everyone in that starting five. Thompson, Dylan Brooks, Fred VanVleet, Alperen Sengun, and Jalen Green. The early minutes in particular from Green and Sengun were beautiful. Really, the first couple of minutes of this game, it felt like, one, the Rockets were trying to get Jalen Green going. And also, I like that Alperen Sengun clearly had his back, much like Fred VanVleet verbally has had his back. Unfortunately for Green, he suffered some sort of injury, knee, hamstring. I'm sure we'll find out in the Rockets press conference. I decided to dip early. I was a little frustrated with the way the game ended. And I don't really know what's there to be learned at a press conference today, but I was actually in attendance at Toyota Center. But I thought Green came out attacking just the way that Ime Udoka wanted, and it really felt like everyone had his back. I don't think there's anyone on the Rockets that's looking at Jalen Green and are saying, what the fuck's going on here? Maybe Cam Whitmore, who was the only guy who didn't really get to play much. in this game where the Rockets saw a lot of their backups in for a while. So Green gets that knee injury, and I thought he was going to be out for the game. I really did. I wasn't sure what was going on, but he's hobbling, he's limping. He tried to play through it. He subs out after a little bit of time, but he came back in towards the end of the first quarter. I honestly did not notice him. At Toyota Center, it's sometimes a little bit difficult to keep tabs on who's in and who's out of the game. It's partly due to the fact that you don't hear any broadcasters, and the other part of it is the internet is not great. So sometimes it's difficult to keep tabs on who's in and who's out. I know it's a weird thing to say. At a game, you're actually less informed than watching a broadcast, but to bring it back, Green came back and he put in effort at the very least. I know that you take a look at his numbers, 11 points, 8 boards, 2 assists, and you're wondering, what's going on? But he had a couple of nice moments, some step back threes. I thought you got enough out of Jalen tonight, but it really helped that everyone put in some really good work. To the point where things feel unsustainable. I posted on X after the first quarter. I mean, this is unsustainable. And ultimately ended up being unsustainable. But I mean, at halftime, after shooting in the first quarter 64.7% from the field and 55.5% from outside, the Rockets later in the game were actually shooting 64.7% from the field, which they had been shooting earlier, midway through the third. So it was sustainable to a degree. And even better than they were shooting at the end of the first quarter, 62.5% from outside at one point. They were 13 of 13 free throws wise in the first quarter. They shot 32 of 38 from free throws in this game, considering they had missed 35 free throws in the 4 games before, which, do a little math there, Rockets should be up 3-1, and this should have been an elimination game. Whatever. Can't go back in time. But what they're doing, at least in the first half, definitely had me excited. I don't know how Fred VanVleet is still shooting as well as he's shooting. He was 4 for 6 from outside once again. I thought Alperen Şengün showed he had a little bit more physicality on him and was actually pushing guys back as he was driving to the basket. He was a rebound and an assist short of a triple-double. Dylan Brooks, all over the place, was shooting well in the lane, drew fouls, and was perfect from the free throw line. I thought you got some good minutes from Tari Eason off the bench. Steven Adams once again stepped in, did pretty well. Hell, Aaron Holiday came in and he was okay. Jabari Smith had some moments. But no one was better tonight than Amen Thompson, who proved he can be special. If there's anyone that is untouchable on the Houston Rockets, it is Amen Thompson. Thompson in this game showed off his incredible athleticism, but you already knew he had that. Some of the moments that he had in this game where he stole the ball away from several Warriors veterans that you wouldn't expect him to swipe it from, took it the distance and finished either with a dunk or drew a foul at the line. He was phenomenal. The stat line, 25 points, 6 boards, 5 steals, 3 blocks, 3 assists, and he had 4 offensive rebounds. Woo! The Rockets say he's untouchable. Regardless of what happens, the rest of these playoffs, there's no way the Rockets can move on from this guy. None. He even hit the 1 3-point shot that he took. If he develops that, holy shit. I think he's the most athletic person that I've seen play basketball since early Russell Westbrook. He plays so much bigger than he actually is. I always assume that Amen Thompson is 6'9". He is listed at 6'7". He's also just 200 pounds. I feel like he can put a little bit of muscle onto that. A freak athlete. And the Rockets are actually lucky they stumbled into him with that 4th overall pick. I feel like he didn't get enough respect as Defensive Player of the Year in this year. I think he finished 5th. But to see what he did offensively, to see him attacking, and in addition to that, just causing havoc all over the place, that is just, I think, a taste of what he can be. If you're looking for a guy who has the, I guess, gear to potentially at some point be Anthony Edwards, like Thompson has it, while Jalen Green at this moment in time does not. This game got to a point where the Warriors called off the dogs. I saw Steve Kerr after the game said that after the first 5 minutes of the second half, after a halftime conversation that he'd had with Draymond Green, the Warriors decided, fuck it, we're out of here. But this is where things get a little bit frustrating if you're a Rockets fan. When they called off the dogs and put in their bench players, and we're not talking about, Kevon Looney. We're talking about guys like Gui Santos and Quinton Post and Moses Moody and Pat Spencer and Tracy Jackson Davis. We're not even talking about Jonathan Kuminga, who was out with an illness. We're not talking Gary Payton II. We're talking bottom of the barrel players. And I don't know what it was about them, but against the Rockets backups, these guys who some have seen some minutes already in this series, they were scrappy and they fought their way back into this game to, at the very least, there was a moment where you're thinking to yourself, wait a second, is this going to get to less than 10-point lead? Are the Warriors starters going to get back in? You saw them starting to tie their shoes after being out for a quarter plus. It got to a point where the Rockets brought their starters back in with about 7 minutes to go or so, and the Rockets starters couldn't really get anything going. Those guys got all sorts of confidence for a couple of minutes, and yeah, it got a little nerve-wracking. Throw that in with the fact that there were some open shots that the Warriors missed in this game, and you definitely are still a little bit skeptical that the Rockets are going to be able to win Game 6. But the way that the game ended kind of spoils the way that it began, even though the Rockets still won by 15 points. Because the backups punked the Rockets starters. And clearly they were trying to goad them into some shit. For those who did not see the end of the game, maybe you tuned out, there was a moment where the Rockets and Warriors, once again, got into a shoving match. A play ended. I don't know what Alperen Sengun was saying to Pat Spencer and his beard stash, but whatever it was, they got into each other's face, and Pat Spencer gave him a very light headbutt. It was a headbutt, though. And then Tracy Jackson Davis shoved Sengun very hard. Sengun got a technical foul. I don't know what the hell he could have said to have drawn the technical foul there. Tracy Jackson Davis, who honestly did more than Pat Spencer, he got a technical foul, and Spencer got ejected. But if I'm the Warriors, I like that little moment. First off, that the backups came in and fought with them, tried to get Sengun ejected. I get that the Rockets starters were probably rusty at that point in time, and ultimately there was definitely a talent disparity, and it ultimately showed itself once they got their legs loose again. But, I mean, the Rockets backups got completely punked by the Warriors backups, and the Warriors backups, to a degree, punked the Rockets starters. I didn't like seeing that, and I also didn't like seeing how empty the Toyota Center crowd was. If you don't follow me on X or Twitter, you should take a look at a post that I made at about 6:30. At 6:30, it was empty. I thought it might be empty, and we talked all radio show long, noon to 3, ESPN 97.5 and 92.5 on YouTube, at ESPN Houston on Twitch, at ESPN 975 if you ever want to hear me doing my primary job, the radio show that I do. We were talking all show long about how the Rockets have gotten a bit of a raw deal when it comes to home games. You have an 8:30 game on a Easter Sunday, the first game of the series. You have a 9 p.m. tip-off on a Wednesday, and then you have a 6:30 tip-off on a Wednesday. Houston rush hour traffic is a fucking bitch between 5 and 7. And it was rough getting to Toyota Center. It took me half an hour. I'm not that far away from the stadium, and there was an accident that took place in front of me, like directly in front of me. The car in front of me drove into the back of a car that was right in front of it. Houston traffic is no joke. But I am making excuses. I mean, Houston sports crowds aren't exactly the best. Late arrivers. I went back earlier to the Houston Chronicle archives, and I was taking a look at some old articles from the Chronicle during the days of Choke City. For those who don't know, there is a headline in the sports page of the Houston Chronicle, May 12th, 1994, which reads, Choke City. And a couple of days before that, the Rockets, specifically Vernon Maxwell, had called out Rockets fans after there were 1,500 empty seats at the Summit for Game 1 between the Rockets and Suns. Vernon Maxwell said, quote, "Our fans are the worst, and you can write that. Tell them I said that. To hell with them." KPRC had to buy 1,500 tickets so that they would avoid a local blackout. For those who are a little bit older than me, you remember those days? For those my age, you probably don't remember those days at all. So it was a slow arriving crowd. We like to be fashionably late down here in the South. And of course, the vibes were not good after Game 4. But I'm very thankful that the Rockets got off to the start that they did, because I don't know how the crowd would have done had they showed up, because they eventually got there. And this was like it had been in Game 1, the Warriors leading in the very early minutes, or like it was at the beginning of the third quarter where the Warriors got on that big run. I don't know how it would have gone. It might have been like that. For those who haven't seen it, there's this GIF of the Simpsons grandpa. I don't know if it's GIF or GIF. Fuck off. But there's this GIF of the grandpa from The Simpsons walking into a restaurant, takes his hat off, puts it on a hat hanger, walks in a circle, puts the hat back on, and then leaves. If the Rockets were down big early on, I think a lot of people would have ended up checking out. So, there you have it. Game 6, Friday. What advantages do the Rockets have? They're younger. 2 days of rest. They should be able to handle it better than a team with their best player, Steph Curry, 37 years old, with Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler, both 35. I don't know that the Rockets will shoot that well again in this series. It is completely unsustainable. I hope that they can shoot to a degree of that. I think it's a really good sign that Thompson, the last couple of games, has come on strong. And I don't know what to make of Jalen Green. I thought he played well, but I also think he's hurt now. So you actually have an excuse for not the most dominant performance. And it is a shame, because I think that Jalen Green was ready for this one. And then he suffers the injury after about 5 minutes. I thought the first 5 minutes he played, though, he looked pretty damn good. So if you got any comments, you know how to join this show live. If you're listening to the podcast edition of the show, you should be watching it live on YouTube at Paul Gallant, on Twitch at Gallant Says, Facebook.com/Paul Gallant Sports, on Instagram at Sports Gallant, and on Twitter /X at Gallant Says. So let's read some comments here. Big Balls Squad 2021 says, Rockets launch. Yes. That's one of the things that we do on the radio show. We do Texans swarm, Astros bang, and Rockets launch. We've done occasionally Rockets red glare, Rockets back shots. That's what Big Ball Squad 2021 wanted me to put in there. Mustang Boy 7 on Twitch is posting all sorts of my only available, the Gallant Says Twitch stickers. There's a sticker of my kitty cat, the Rockets. Octavius Tate comments, let's go. Just got to handle business in the Bay. This game is frustrating because the first half is the way that it is. And you realize, okay, this team does have a lot of talent and maybe has more talent than the Warriors. I mean, there's been 2 games where the Rockets have blown Golden State out versus 3 games where Golden State either pulled away late or won at the absolute buzzer. So there's that. And then there's the second half where, I mean, it was a party and then the backups came in and they were shoving the Rockets starters around. TJ comments on X, Ime would rather play Reed Shepherd over Cam Whitmore or Jeff Green. That's wild to me. I thought that was wild too. Now, I don't know if the TNT broadcast or the Space City Home Network broadcast zoomed in on Cam Whitmore on the bench, but the first thought that I had after a moment where Reed Shepherd had a ball that got tipped, the first thing that I thought of is, oh man, Cam Whitmore must be so pissed that he didn't get to play in this game. He had 2 minutes. So clearly something's going on. You don't even have to ask about it between Ime Udoka and Cam Whitmore. Does Cam Whitmore deserve minutes? I really don't know. But I imagine more than anyone on the court that Cam Whitmore was livid with the Rockets' backups getting punked by the Warriors' backups, and he was probably thinking he would have been the best player on the court. And honestly, he might have been. So something's up. On Instagram, at Sports Gallant, Behan in comments, LOL, they won, but I feel like they lost. Come on. The series has been extended. We got to give this team a little bit of grace. It's a young team, you know? And considering the history of this Rockets franchise, I was saying this all radio show long. I don't expect them to come all the way back and win. It would be fun if they did. I don't expect them to come all the way back and win. But we're going to check out on this team's first return to the playoffs. It's not like they've been dog shit. It's not like they've had James Harden pissing down his leg like he had a couple of times during the playoffs. This is a franchise, too, that, okay, maybe you're not old enough to remember 1994, the Rockets coming back from down 2-0 against the Suns, or 1995, the Rockets coming back from down 3-1 against the Suns. But the Rockets have come back from down 3-1 in both 1995 and 2015. You should remember that one. Rockets Clippers. And we're talking about, in the case of the Suns, who had been to the finals and taken on Michael Jordan the year before the Rockets got there, who had Charles Barkley on their team. We're talking about a Clippers team that had Chris Paul in peak Lob City days and Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan. I mean, we've seen this franchise do things that separate themselves from a lot of Houston sports history, you know? So I get what you're saying. They won. I felt like they lost. But I also feel like we're being a little hard on these guys. More comments here. This is also from Instagram, at Sports Gallant. Reggie Miller would have walked off the set today, says Alex XXXB19. I heard the national broadcast featured Candace Parker. I like Candace Parker. Y'all some haters. I'm not going to call y'all sexist. I would never do that. But I do like Candace Parker as a broadcaster. I think Candace Parker actually knows what she's talking about. I don't think she's annoying when she does it either. I get it. I don't want a woman to talk about basketball. I go to woke ESPN. I see that all the time. I get it. I don't know. Candace Parker is someone that I've seen gelling pretty seamlessly as a broadcaster, whether it's college basketball coverage or regular season NBA coverage. I don't have a problem with her being in that spot. I really don't. Would you rather have Candace Parker or Reggie Miller, too? Especially after the way Reggie Miller handled Game 4. I mean, the excuse making for Draymond Green, I can sort of understand it, but the moment in the game where they zoom out and you can see Reggie Miller's basically trying to give Draymond the high five after he stopped Şengün in that last play. Like that was annoying. You know, you want a little bit of neutrality in the national broadcast, and I think you get it from Kevin Harlan, who I think is the best play-by-play broadcaster that there is if you care about that stuff. But, I mean, do you want the color being provided to be painting an ugly picture of your team? No. Do you want that color to be rooting for the team that's taking on your favorite team? No. People used to get mad at Joe Buck all the time. I never got the sense that Joe Buck was biased. I felt like he was almost so robotic, you couldn't tell. But yeah, the Reggie Miller thing, that would have been annoying tonight. Some comments on YouTube. Neil Shidiak says, Paul, what's your percentage chance of the boys coming back and winning? I'm going to put it right now. I give them 20%, which does sound like a lot. I think Golden State realized this game wasn't happening pretty early on, and they checked out. And I do expect in San Francisco for Golden State to be locked the fuck in. I really do expect that. Steve Kerr said afterwards, I didn't have these guys prepared for tonight's game. I could see how the Warriors, they came here and they're like, hey, we're up 3-1. Do we need this game desperately? If we are off, and they were, against a Rockets team that I think they thought might quit. Now I think Game 6 is going to be a tight one. If the Rockets win Game 6, I do think that it's a 50-50 proposition in Game 7. But right now, I would say 20% chance that they win Game 6. And get back to me when we do the live stream after Friday night's game. Michael Sanchez comments on YouTube at Paul Gallant. You could see Cam Whitmore leave at one point, with Ahmed Thompson chasing him down and bringing him back to the bench. Oh, boy. I did not know that. Oh. Cam, that's not how you get the minutes. You have to handle these moments with grace. I understand being a young man, playing a sport, and having all the confidence in the world in yourself. I can understand thinking to yourself, what the fuck is going on? And, much like both Pat Spencer and Brandon Podziemski, among other players in this series, you look at them and you're like, this guy's good at basketball. You don't realize how tall they are. You just look at them and you're like, what the fuck? I think if I'm Cam Whitmore, I'm seeing Reed Sheppard get minutes in this series. I'm not thrilled. Sheppard had the worst plus-minus of the night for the Rockets. He was minus 15. Moment was too big for him, and Pat Spencer outplayed him. For whatever that means. All right. Well, I don't know what else you want me to say. I liked what I saw out of the starters to open up this game. I thought the Rockets showed some fight. I thought Jalen Green showed some heart. And I think Ahmed Thompson looks special. I also do not expect the Warriors to play this poorly the remainder of the series. You shouldn't think that way either. However we might feel about indoctrinated Warriors fans and the way that they act, I respect the hell out of that team. I really do. I love Steph. Jimmy, I've always been a fan of. Draymond is, I know you're going to get pissed at me for this one, but I've enjoyed Draymond for a lot of his career. And I like those Warriors teams back in the 2010s more than I like the James Harden Rockets. Sorry. Jonathan Sanford says, good evening. Good evening to you, Jonathan. Trying to think of anything else that I might have missed. The fact that this was a do-or-die Game 5 takes a little bit of the wind of excitement out of the sails. Because you knew that there was a chance that Golden State would look at this game and think to themselves, all right, we don't desperately need this. But I really do like that the Rockets answered the way that they did. I think that is a huge sign for just buying into Ime Udoka's culture. Rick the Ruler 713 says, Jalen's going to have to show up in the Bay to get Game 6. I wonder if it's possible. I feel for Jalen Green now because now it seems that he is injured. I'm not going to put a tinfoil hat on and wonder, is he actually injured? I'm not doing that. He played through it. I think he tried his best. You could tell at moments that he was, if you were paying attention to just him specifically, which is sometimes hard to do on the TV broadcast. In person at the stadium, I noticed multiple times, and I'm going to try to, do this myself. I guess you can't really see it on the camera. We try things on the live stream from time to time. But basically, he was putting weight on one foot, and it felt like he was stretching it. I could not tell what he was trying to stretch there. My shirt is awesome, though, is it not? Amazing shirt. I'm just going to wear all cat shirts the rest of this series. Rick the Ruler also says it's a good team win. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. All right, seems like the comments are drying up a little bit, but I do appreciate every single one of you who watched this thing live, which you can do generally, if I get my act together, around 4 p.m. Central Time every single weekday on YouTube at Paul Gallant. If you haven't already, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. You can also catch it on Twitch if you're more of a Twitch person. I have stickers. You can use that there. Give me a sub if you're more of a Twitcher. It's on X and Twitter at Gallant Says. That's where you get most of my written takes. It's on Instagram at Sports Gallant, where you can get some of the clips from my radio show, noon to 3, ESPN 97.5 and 92.5, and from this show. So if you haven't followed me already, please do that. It's also on Facebook at Paul Gallant Sports. We're still trying to figure out how Facebook works in 2025. I've got a TikTok too. Paul, you're on TikTok? I don't scroll through TikTok. I just blindly post and I get off it. Because every time I go on TikTok, they post these videos that come up on my feed and it's a part 3 post. And I do not understand for the life of me why they don't just post the entire video. It makes me angry. But generally around 4 p.m. Central Time and occasionally after major Houston sporting events. It's also available wherever you get your podcasts. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the Gallant Says podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Rate and review me as well. If you roast my ass, I'll read it. If you ever have a question that you want to shoot me after the show, gallantsays@gmail.com. Until tomorrow afternoon at 4 p.m. Central Time. So long, farewell, and have yourselves a wonderful Wednesday evening and Thursday morning. Peace!